There's a large group of people right now who feel they lack the charisma, magnetism, or Gary Vee type motor mouth to have a voice in today's world, especially now that it's drowning in AI slop. But what we actually need aren't louder voices. We need more spacious ones. Most people think of voice in two ways. Number one, what you say, and number two, what you write. Now, I've spent a decade helping people with both keynotes, copywriting, books, big ideas, pretty much all of it. But there's a third voice, and it's always been there, and it's just a matter of time, soon approaching, where it will be the most important one, the voice of presence. The voice of presence is what emanates to others when they're around you. Not what you say, not what you write, but what you emanate. And you know what I'm talking about. People who carry themselves in a way that makes you feel calm, safe, or covered. People who make you feel like you could climb Mount Everest or run through a wall. And of course, there are people who want to make you bang your head against a wall. Now, I've had people who can deliver perfectly crafted speeches or write Shakespearean prose who still struggle to sell, to grow an audience, or land the job. I'm convinced they're using just two of the three voices, or that third one is so janky or nervous or desperate that the other two get drowned out. It always shows up. And you might be thinking, come on, really, a voice of presence? If you're not convinced this is real, let's take this down to a real personal level. Anyone who has lost a loved one or ended a meaningful relationship has felt the vacuum of that person being gone. It's why people choose to fly across the world to sit at the bedside of a passing relative rather than just talk to them through FaceTime. It's why the feeling of a bed being empty after you shared it with someone for years hits you harder than you anticipated. It's why someone sleeps on the couch when the couple fights. They can't even be in each other's presence. Presence is not metaphorical, it's material, it has weight. Now, allow me to share where I'm coming from in my perspectives. I carry a blend of three perspectives that have shaped my life experiences. I've spent the last 13 years in marketing, and I think anyone who's good at marketing should be eligible for an honorary degree in psychology. It's like 90% of the job. You learn to read people, filter out noise, see who someone actually is beyond what they say, what they ask for, what they're trying to project or perform. Second, my younger years in church. I've probably sat through more than 3,000 services and have been on stage for something like over 1,000 times, conservatively. A lot of that time was spent leading music before the days of the concert venue, fog machine, karaoke plus TED Talk services that are very common now. There were less theatrics when I was growing up. There was more attentiveness. You needed to read the room and feel what was happening beneath the surface. Third, I grew up as one of like 5 Asian kids in my grade, and I faced my fair share of navigating life while feeling like an outsider, being made fun of because my last name was a girl's name, and of course, racism. These experiences have shaped how I read people, energy, vibes, what's being said without words, the book of unwritten rules. Now that you understand that I'm a jambalaya of commercialized messaging, spiritual narratives, and dealing with ignorant fools, let me say this. You do not need to be best actor or actress in a leading role anymore. Every week, I come across someone I've never heard of before with millions of followers or subscribers. The point isn't that it's easier for non-performative people to gain a big following, even if it is. One of my current favorites is Dwayne from Dry Creek Wrangler School. He currently has 1.6 million subscribers on YouTube, and this guy just sits on a chair at his ranch. He smokes a pipe and doles out life wisdom to men. No flashy music or edits. You just feel this guy's presence. If Bob Ross was still alive and had a YouTube channel, I imagine it would be like Dwayne's. The other real point here is that having a big following isn't that impressive anymore. People have caught on to the game of vanity metrics and influencers. They want real. Now, this doesn't mean you can just zen out and expect your business to grow or that you'll land a promotion or the love of your life will just magically show up at your door because you have good vibes. You still have to dress the part and say the right things at that job interview or on the first date. So let me illustrate all this in one last story. I said to a pastor once, "Do you want to be famous?" Many years ago, I was attending a church some people I grew up with went to, and they told the pastor I was in marketing and thought I might be able to help the church in some way. So a few weeks after, the pastor and his executive pastor, that's the COO, for those of you who are not familiar with modern church culture, asked me to lunch. And over the months I'd been attending the church, I found the pastor's preaching to be raw. It was a bit unpolished. It was more passion than clarity, but he was a lot more vulnerable. He was a lot more open than most preachers. And it was a little cringy at times personally, but to some extent it was working. His congregation grew to several hundred people in a really tough part of town. So at lunch, one of their first questions was, "Mike, how do we grow the church's Facebook page? I said, guys, I respect what both of you have been doing, but I'm pretty direct and to the point. I don't think you really care about the Facebook page. I think you want the Facebook page to grow so that more people come to church, right? And they laughed, they chuckled, and they finally admitted, yeah, if you put it that way, yes. So I said, okay, great. Before I answer that question, then let me ask a second one. And I leaned forward and I said, just really directly, do you want to be really influential in this generation as a pastor, like for your influence to go way beyond your church? I'm asking because I've noticed in your sermons that you mentioned third culture generation and pastors conferences a lot. There's nothing wrong if you want to be famous or influential, but I can only really help you if we're talking openly. So after a couple more chuckles, he finally admitted, yes, that would be great. And honestly, I believed his heart was in the right place. So I offered some thoughts, and I promised him, look, I have no skin in the game other than to help you based on my experiences, based on what I've learned. So I said, without trying to offend you, the communication needs to level up. I have helped pretty influential people with their speeches, their keynotes, their books, places where every word really matters. And I said, you often say things that are an overreach, both theologically and just from a communication standpoint. I can say the theological part because I went to seminary. So, as an example, the other week, you said from the stage that God's two favorite things are, and whatever you put at the end of that sentence cannot be true. You cannot definitively say that. And then about a month ago, executive pastor guy, you came on stage, literally brought a laundry rack on the platform and told everyone in the congregation they should stop using their dryers at home and use clotheslines and racks instead because God wants us to care for the environment. So I said to the guys, look, we live in a soundbite culture. If you were famous and you said something like that, you would be destroyed online. You'd be absolutely eviscerated because that's not true. You can't make those kinds of statements. And I also recommended maybe change your headshot and not wear that green Argyle sweater. We had a good laugh about that one. Now, this was the first and last time I ever had lunch with these guys, but from what I can tell, they're still trucking along, they're doing their thing. And he had good presence. Like from when I was visiting there and going and attending, this pastor, he had good presence. It was his speaking, his writing voice that needed work. Again, all three are important. So maybe you're here, you've been doing a lot of inner work. And if you've been doing that, I commend you. Keep working on that spoken and written voice, like I was advising this person to do, this pastor to do. If you've been working on your spoken and written voice, but you aren't seeing results, it might be time to do a little bit of deeper work on that voice of presence. What are you really projecting in your energy, in your vibe, in your feel, right? Those who develop all three, your voice will be loud and clear, even if you're the strong silent type. Your time is coming. I'm not promising you fame, attention, or even wealth, but I am promising you opportunity with a capital O, and it's up to you to seize it. Now, in the next couple of episodes, I'm going to further unpack this topic of voice in a series I'm calling Vox Clara, which is a Latin term that refers to a voice that is clear, resonant, and distinct. It's also used in classical music to describe that kind of voice. And we could all use a clearer voice. The world needs clearer voices. So I hope you'll stay subscribed. If you know anyone who might benefit from this upcoming series, please invite them to subscribe to my newsletter at mikekim.com/newsletter. And if you've enjoyed this video here on YouTube, it would mean a lot if you'd like the video and share it with somebody, or subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Now, several months ago, I set a goal of writing a weekly newsletter for 6 months, and I've been rebroadcasting that here on YouTube. And I'm now just 3 weeks away from completing that goal. My commitment is to continue to do these newsletters and these episodes and to let it evolve, to let my work evolve. And I hope that you'll stay along for the ride. Now, before you go today, 2 additional resources as next steps. Number 1 is my idea to IP assessment. This is a 10-minute assessment that shows you exactly where your business sits across 8 categories, then gives you a personalized roadmap with your biggest gaps and opportunities and highest leverage next steps. Several hundred people have already taken this, and I've had over 25 one-on-one conversations with people about their results, about the quality of the assessment, and to map out their next steps together. And I've received great reviews. I just got to objectively, people are saying, no, this is super awesome. Now, it is free until the end of the month, and after that, it will be a paid product. So go to the link in the show description here. And second resource, my book, Own Your Brand, Own Your Career, is now available on audiobook. Again, all three of these voices I talked about today matter. But what about positioning them in your career? Well, that's where the real work begins. So, this audiobook, which I co authored with my friend Andy Storch, will show you how to identify your unique value, build credibility and visibility at work, create opportunities for promotions and career pivots. So, if you are a working professional, you want to leverage the power of personal branding to grow in your career, this is for you and you can get it on Audible. I hope you enjoyed this episode and looking forward to seeing you on the next one.